All right, my game tape review is finished. We're going behind the scenes of the 49ers' dramatic preseason victory against the Raiders. Obviously, I was in the locker room after the game here in Vegas as well. And, well, I thought that the best piece of introductory intel came from Chase Lucas, who is kicking the door down. Chase Lucas is saying, I need to be on this 53-man roster. He tried to find Trent Williams. And I think he did after his interception to give big Trent the ball because Trent helped Lucas get through last season. Deommodore Lenoir, Trent Williams, both were support for Chase Lucas as he was frustrated. He was down on that practice squad, not getting any playing time for the 49ers. Well, I think he's going to get some playing time in 2025. Anyway, Chase said that Robert Saleh and Daniel Bullocks, the 49ers, two of their defensive coaches, obviously their coordinator and their DB coach, they had them so intensely prepared for this game. This really, really highlights the behind the scenes that goes into preparation for the NFL because this was a preseason game and they had 135 cut-ups of Raiders and Pete Carroll coverage tendencies, or I would say Raiders and Pete Carroll team offensive route running tendencies ready for the 49ers defensive backs. And this led directly to Chase Lucas's interception. Have a listen to this because I thought that it was great insight into how the 49ers are run, much better coached on the defensive side of the ball this year.
But no, man, I got to give it to Coach Saleh and Coach Daniel Bullocks, man. They give me some great indicators. They give me great indicator tape. There's 135 clips, mind you, of indicator tape that we had before the game, the day before. And I watched it probably 10 times. And I knew, 2 by 2, for playing man, they're either going to go slants or they're going to go out route to the 2. And I said, okay, if he gonna stutter at the line, he's doing a slant. If he's just going to keep it pushing, he's going to do it out. So I read it perfectly. I just broke underneath him. And then, I think, what was the quarterback's name? I can't remember. O'Connell, he threw me a perfect pass right into my hands. So, I got to thank him for that, for sure.
Yeah, last week you were happy that Robert trusted you with those blitz calls, and then you had a big sack there at the end.
Yes, sir.
Is that another example of Robert going back to the well, something at clutch time?
What's crazy, man? We didn't run a lot of calls that I thought we were going to run. I think Coach Saleh just said, we're going to stick to the basics. And I didn't get that cue this time. I didn't get the, hey, man, we're going to be blitzing you, man. Just be prepared. We went in there 2 minutes. He's like, hey, man, I'm gonna blitz you, go get a sack. And I said, okay, we're gonna make it do what it do. So they were keying me the whole time. They kept sliding the line to me. I kept acting like I was blitzing, so they kept sliding the line to me, and it was giving us, our defensive line, some penetration. And then I think they forgot about me, and then I ended up getting into it. So.
Coaching. So 135 cut-ups for the 49ers DBs for a preseason game. A lot of people yesterday when they heard that were like, whoa. That's a lot for a preseason game, but yes, you got to coach these guys up. You've got to figure out who's going to be the best in a Sunday situation when you're obviously probably paying even closer attention to detail, but you can't just start this week 1 of the regular season. You've got to put in the work now. Saleh and his staff obviously are. It prepped Chase Lucas for that pick yesterday, and you can also gauge who's paying attention to this stuff and who's not, who's taking the film seriously, who's not. Chase Lucas said he watched that 10 times. 135 cut-ups 10 times. Well, he's watching over 1,000 clips. Maybe he was exaggerating a little bit, but you still get the idea. The guy has been on one this offseason because he was so frustrated with the way that last year went for him. He was with the Lions in 2023, saw playing time for them, got in a little bit of an altercation with Deommodore Lenoir after the 49ers won the NFC Championship game. Lenoir is one of the guys that he leans on in that 49ers locker room now. So cool story developing here with Chase Lucas. So yesterday, late last night, early this morning, I watched the game tape now twice. And here are some of the things that I noticed that we didn't talk about on the instant reaction yesterday. First, Connor Colby made a start for the 49ers, technically his first game start for San Francisco. Rookie 7th-round guard out of Iowa. On the 3rd down play that killed the first drive, that forced Jake Moody to kick the field goal, Tyree Wilson just backed Connor Colby up into Brock Purdy's lap. Colby has been really good so far. He's impressed the 49ers. The pass protection, the anchor that we didn't see on that play has been much more existent than the 49ers expected. But on that particular play, he's got to drop the anchor. And by that, I mean you've got to screw your feet into the ground. You've got to engage that lower body, and you have to make sure that the hard-charging edge rusher doesn't put you into the lap of the quarterback. Sometimes it's not about the quarterback getting sacked, but it's about the offensive line collapsing into the quarterback to force a hurried throw. Purdy had no chance to let anything develop. Remember that edge pressure many times is actually less damaging than interior pressure, because the quarterback can step up from edge pressure. The quarterback sometimes can even see the edge pressure and he can run away from it. But if it's coming up the gut, if it's coming against one of the guard positions or against one of the center positions, then it's going to be really hard for the quarterback to do anything. Yeah, maybe he could sprint out, but if the rest of the offensive linemen are containing a normal pocket, then you're going to run right into an edge rusher in all likelihood, and you're definitely going to break up the on-schedule nature of the play. So anyway, Colby backed into Brock Purdy on that first third down. I thought that was the reason why Brock Purdy's drive stalled. How about Curtis Robinson? We got to shout out to him. He had a big hit on special teams, and I'm sure that meant a lot to Curtis. He tore his ACL at the end of September last year. A couple weeks ago, he was back out at 49ers practice, so he was officially the first ACL patient to make his return for the 2025 49ers. And, you know, we haven't been talking about him much in the linebacker room, but he's been a good special teams guy for San Francisco. He's been a really good special teams guy for the 49ers over the years. And I think that that's his ticket to make this football team again in 2025. It might be tough because the 49ers have a lot of burgeoning young talent in that linebacker room. They've got, we're going to talk about Nick Martin. We're going to talk about Tatum Bethune, who I thought was able to man up to Ashton Genty, the hard-charging Raiders running back who was bowling over the 49ers early in this game. Those guys are, you know, I think obviously Martin's going to make the team. I think Bethune has a good track to make the team. I think they're going to have to take 6 for Curtis Robinson to make this, and it's going to be a special teams decision. And the fact that he registered a really, really big hit post-ACL, firmly, I think, knocking off all the rust that had accumulated after he was out for what, those 9 or 10 months. I thought that was a big moment for the Stanford product, Curtis Robinson. Speaking of Tatum Bethune, Ashton Genty, the rookie running back out of Boise State for the Las Vegas Raiders, early in the game, he decleated Deommodore Lenoir. We all saw that run, and we all said, ooh, that doesn't normally happen to Deommodore Lenoir. Genty's got some juice, and yeah, he doesn't have as much mileage on him. That's the thing about the NFL. If he can sustain this for 5 to 10 years, he's going to make himself a lot of money. But it's hard to sustain car accident after car accident. And so he was bowling over 49ers guys. He pushed Marquise Siegel, who's a little bit smaller than your typical safety back, for 1 first down. Lenoir was insane. I mean, just obliterated Deommodore on that run to the right side. The first 49er to come up, thud up Ashton Genty and stop Ashton Genty in his tracks was Tatum Bethune, second-year linebacker out of Florida State. And, you know, the one thing about Tatum Bethune is that he moves like a comfortable vet on the field. He might not be the most athletic linebacker. He's not a Nick Martin, who's tops in athleticism, who could fly around the field. Tatum was a 7th-round pick because I think the NFL understood his physical limitations, but he carries himself like a 7-year vet. He's rarely out of position. He seems to understand what's moving around him. The game doesn't seem to be moving too quickly for him. And then when it's time to make that mano-a-mano contact, Tatum Bethune muscles up, screws his feet into the ground, engages his lower body, and isn't afraid to shy away from anything. And given the way that Genty was popping people yesterday, the fact that Tatum Bethune was the first one to stand up to him, I thought was really, really impressive. Now, speaking of Siegel, he might not be the biggest guy, so maybe when he's going up against the power back like Ashton Genty, there might be some problems, but he is a fast guy and he's athletic, and I think that he can operate on an island. In fact, we saw it yesterday on that third down. Throw outside to Raheem Mostert. Everybody knows here how fast Raheem Mostert is. If you've been watching 49ers football over the past few years, you know that he's a burner. And Mostert had all kinds of room. Robert Saleh trusted Marquise Siegel on an island in that flat against Raheem Mostert. And it was a high-pressure situation early in the game. Third down, Marquise Siegel made the big stop. Raiders announcers on the TV broadcast, by the way, were very, very impressed with both Marquise Siegel and Nick Martin. And, we could talk a lot about Martin. I spoke with him in the locker room. I asked him, is it slowing down for you? And he said, yes. It over the last week, he had the first experience where it was moving too fast and people were piling on. Then Nick Martin was overdrafted, all this and all that. It's like, give the guy a chance to acclimate to NFL speed, because he's got speed of his own. And sometimes speed times speed, not a good combination. That's when you start overrunning stuff and things look really bad. Well, if you're Tatum Bethune and you don't have the speed that Nick Martin does, you have to play more within yourself. You have to let plays come to you, because you haven't had the athleticism as a crutch your entire football career. So you're almost wired to have a higher floor when you first enter the league. Somebody like Nick Martin, who's a tackling machine at Oklahoma State, who's running from sideline to sideline, chasing guys down, his athleticism, especially at the college level, could get him out of a lot of binds. 141 tackles 2 seasons ago at Oklahoma State. Somebody like that, you almost are in position to be a little more exposed early on at the NFL level if your habits aren't right. And I think that that's going to be the key for Nick Martin. That's what he talked about in the locker room. He said, I've got to just let these plays come to me. Then you pick and choose when you fire your gun, right? You pick and choose when you're going to be hard charging toward the sideline, chasing somebody down, making that sprint, taking that explosive burst. But you absolutely have to know when the right times are, because if you don't in the NFL, the league, it's filled with a lot of other athletic guys. A lot of guys who are the best players on their college teams. The league will expose you in that way. I also had D. Winters popping Ashton Genty. That was, I think, D, it looks like he's bulked up a little bit. And we all know that he can cover. He just missed pass breakup on that third down to Trey Tucker. I don't know if that's really a fair matchup for any linebacker, even Fred Warner. Trey Tucker is a 5'8", 5'9" receiver, right? I mean, this is a guy who was winning go balls against cornerbacks in the practice on Thursday. But he was a little outlet man on the short third down play early in the game, and D. Winters was in his own coverage, and he had to try to knock away to throw to Trey Tucker, and he almost did. And it would have been really impressive had he done that, but it was a play after he really, really popped Ashton Genty. So, for all that Genty did damage-wise to the 49ers to begin this game, the 49ers started hitting back, which I think Robert Saleh definitely liked to see, with Bethune, with D. Winters. And I think that's important because it's foolish to judge a run defense as a whole based on what the 49ers were tossing out there personnel-wise yesterday. They didn't have their defensive line. They didn't have Fred Warner back there. Yes, Lenore was there. Lenore, I know, didn't look good on that run against Ashton Genty, but this is not the defense that's going to be out there week one. They hope to return a lot of players this week. I will even show you the 49ers 90-man depth chart to give you an idea of who might be back for San Francisco when they practice on Tuesday. 3 straight practices coming up for the 49ers. But here's a depth chart. Here you look at the defensive line. I think they expect Nick Bosa back from the sore neck. Jordan Elliott might be back. Mykel Williams should be back as well. Maybe CJ West, maybe that won't be till later in the week since he got hurt after Mikel's similar injury, the knee hyperextension. But you never know the degree of severity here. It could be different than what we saw with Mikel Williams. They also expect Yetur Gross-Matos back. I'm not sure about Sam O and Robert Beal Jr. I do know that Kevin Gibbons won't be back into the regular season, but in theory, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 defensive linemen who are close to returning right now for the 49ers. You probably don't get all 7 back, but I don't think it's crazy to think they may get 4 or maybe even 5 back this week. And when you're down 7 of your top defensive linemen, all these guys are on the 53-man roster projection. When you're down 7 defensive linemen on the 53-man roster, remember that they only run rotations of 8, at most 9 defensive linemen in games. So yesterday, the 49ers were playing with a bunch of replacements. So obviously the run defense is not going to look as good. So I think that people try to make these team-wide evaluations off of preseason games, and they're absolute fools because they're not taking into account all of the context here. It's the preseason. Guys are hurt. Guys are being nursed back to health. They're not being rushed back into things because, again, it's the preseason. So you look at this, you have to evaluate from the individual's point of view. I could talk about D. Winters hitting Ashton Genty. I could talk about Tatum Bethune's big hit. I could talk about Curtis Robinson on special teams. I could talk about Trevis Gibson and his sack and his chances to either sneak onto the roster or sneak onto the practice squad. I could talk about those things led by Chase Lucas. But if I'm trying to make a defense-wide evaluation, I'm going to sound like a complete idiot, right? Because then you're showing no absolute understanding of how the 49ers were set up yesterday, how preseason works. So I think that it's really, really important to differentiate between all of those things. All right, so let's move down here. Trevis Gibson, I mentioned him. He's a veteran. He's got 11 career sacks. He was making some plays for the 49ers yesterday. I can't wait to see the final pressure numbers here from Pro Football Focus. They tally things up, and they do a good job of it. I'm going to refresh it to see if they're out yet, because if they're out, then we can go through it right now. They're not out yet. They're still reviewing the tape. I've already reviewed the tape. Maybe I could do their job for them. No, just kidding. They do a good job over there. They do a good job quantifying what we see on the field. And I will say that Trevis Gibson, he's had success rushing from the edge in this league before, which is significant because the 49ers were down so many defensive linemen yesterday that they just needed some bodies to get them through. And if this, for any reason, persists over the course of the regular season, you're going to want some plug-and-play guys to be able to fill in, maybe for a game, maybe for 2 games, maybe not for the whole season. But I think Trevis Gibson has shown, he wears number 56, in case you're wondering who that is. I think that he's shown that he can be a good plug-and-play defensive end. He's not going to be somebody that you rely on for a long stretch. But from that first practice, when he tipped Brock Purdy's pass into the air and Nick Bosa intercepted it, I've noticed Trevis Gibson. That was just like hours after he had signed with the 49ers because of a lot of these D-line injuries. Jake Tonjes, moving to the offensive side of the football. Jake Tonjes, he had that 4th down catch, kept the game alive for the 49ers. You guys remember that play? It was a little near side throw from Carter Bradley, who, by the way, looked a lot better this week. But it was 4th and 8. Found Tonjes, who caught it and kind of lost the ball out of bounds. But, the Raiders were saying incomplete, but it was a catch. And he was kind of reaching for the first down marker, and he got it. Tonjes made a couple catches in this game, had a couple nice blocks for the 49ers in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought back Ross Dwelly. I think they might have just wanted more of a look at Tonjes and Willis as they're battling potentially for the number 4 tight end spot, and they obviously needed to add a defensive lineman, Shaquille Brown, before this game happened. But the way, that this roster looks at this very moment, Dwelly's not on it, so we'll see if they re-sign him this week. But Tonjes and Willis are definitely battling for something, either number 4 behind Dwelly if they bring Dwelly back, or just number 3 outright. Willis did make a short catch, maybe a second one yesterday. I've got to check the box score to make sure that my numbers are right. But I know that he made at least one. He caught one in the flat. He had the good block last week on the touchdown run. That was against Talanoa Hufanga. Yesterday, I thought that Jake Tonjes had a nice block against a defensive back for the Raiders on a run play for the 49ers. And he had that very important fourth down catch for San Francisco. Jake has quietly turned into a very multifaceted tight end over the years for the 49ers. Started with the practice squad, earned that 53-man call-up last year, has worked on his body. I think a story a lot like a younger Ross Dwelly, right? And ironically, Ross Dwelly was. We'll see what the 49ers do. We'll see if they bring him back. But Ross Dwelly was part of this competition as well. So keep an eye out on Jake Tonjes, wears number 88 for San Francisco. Unfortunately for the 49ers, Corey Kiner suffered a high ankle sprain, and we could go through some of the injuries here as we're given this report position by position. If you guys want me to give grades for every position group on the report card, give a indication in the chat section. I'll go check it out in a little bit. I think that grades can often be somewhat unnecessary, somewhat surface level, but I like to give them with context. So if you guys really want the grades, I'll go ahead and do it. I'm just waiting to see what the popular demand for those is. Anyway, Corey Kiner hurt, high ankle sprain. So we go up here and we look to see where they're at in the running back room. This is definitely a spot where the 49ers will be making a move this week, because Guerendo will still be out. James probably still out. Taylor, dislocated shoulder, out. Kiner, high ankle sprain, out. I don't know if they're going to want to play Christian McCaffrey at all next week. I'm guessing McCaffrey and Williams are the ones that are for sure going to sit if they're saying that some veterans do sit. So anyway, the only running backs that were healthy yesterday in the stretch run of that game were Jeff Wilson Jr. and Keyshawn Vaughn. So you need to bring more guys in. I think that preferably you bring somebody in who's decent in pass protection as a running back, because Wilson struggled yesterday, especially late. The Raiders started throwing some blitzes at the 49ers and looked like Jeff was having trouble picking them up. But maybe that, it looks like he has lost some weight. Now, he ran the ball really well. And maybe, at age 29, Jeff has needed to cut a little bit of weight to maintain the speed. I don't know. That's something that we're going to have to ask him about. That's just me speculating right now, because I do think that he's a little slimmer than he was his first go-round with the 49ers. But he was running really, really well. I just thought that some of the blitz pickup left quite a bit to be desired late in that football game. And the 49ers are going to want to keep their QBs upright, especially in the third preseason game. It's more of a dress rehearsal for the regular season. So I think that you might start to see some more exotic blitzes come through. I mean, I know Saleh was already throwing some blitzes in preseason game number 1, which isn't customary, but he did it against Sean Payton's offense. About 15 years after Sean Payton and his Saints mercilessly blitzed the 49ers in preseason game number 1 of the Jim Harbaugh tenure. And I don't think that Harbaugh and Alex Smith and company were too pleased with that, because when you're just installing your system, the first preseason game, you're not really ready to take on all these complicated blitzes. I just thought, I'm sure it wasn't intentional from Saleh. I'm sure he wasn't looking for vengeance for Jim Harbaugh 14, 15 years ago, but it was funny last week. Yesterday, actually, the blitz plan was much more tempered, but it was part of what made it work late in the game. Now, before I jump to that point, remember, the next week is Trey Lance, Jim Harbaugh, revenge opportunity for both of them at Levi's Stadium. Chargers are coming to town Saturday, I believe, 5:30. So we're going to be talking about that game a whole heck of a lot over the course of the next few days. You guys see the clip yesterday? Jimmy G, Trey Lance. They're the quarterbacks of the LA teams now. Shaking hands, talking after the game. It was just like at SoFi, wild stuff. Brock Purdy set the face off against both Jimmy G and Trey Lance this year. I mean, the Matthew Stafford situation is not promising in LA. So we'll get further into that as time continues, but that's not until next week. Trey Lance, I'm sure, will play against the 49ers for the Chargers, and that's going to be one of the main attractions at Levi's Stadium. Anyway, talking about blitzes, Chase Lucas, well, he's kicking the door down for a 53-man roster spot. But what I, really, really wanted to ask Chase about yesterday, and I think you probably heard it, in the clip that I played earlier is that in the first week against the Broncos, Robert Saleh told Chase Lucas, and Chase told Robert, hey, blitz me and I'll come through. And Robert said, okay, I'm going to blitz you. This week, that wasn't the indicator from Robert Saleh. This week, they wanted to sit back. They wanted to see how they would do without throwing as much pressure at the opposing offense. But the Raiders, because they watched the tape from last week, they thought that Chase Lucas was going to be blitzing every single time he was approaching the line. So Lucas just faked blitzes throughout most of the afternoon. And the Raiders would have to slide their protection over toward Chase Lucas, and it would help the rest of the defense do its thing. More advantageous angles for your actual defensive linemen who are indeed coming after the pass rusher. Well, all these fake blitzes were great, but then the Raiders got lulled to sleep. And then there was the final drive of the game for Las Vegas after Moody had tied the game, right? And Chase Lucas actually did blitz, and he disguised it perfectly. And they didn't see him coming at all. And he logged the sack. So I opened this up showing the clip of Chase Lucas talking about how important coaching is. And this year the 49ers have Saleh, and he's back, and his staff is preparing 135 cut-ups for a preseason game, and that helped Chase Lucas deliver that interception. Well, this whole cat and mouse game with blitzing and the fact that the 49ers are starting it now in the preseason, they're putting everything on tape now so that offenses won't know what's coming week one. There are games with a lot of blitzes. There are games with no blitzes. Then there's a game like yesterday's with a surprise attack. I don't know what they're going to do next week against the Chargers, but I think that it all unites around the central point of this defensive coaching staff knows what it's doing. And I think that we all knew that because it's Robert Saleh. He's one of the best in the game. But the 49ers margins, specifically on defense this year, are going to be very narrow because they've got so many new players. They're replacing over 40% of their snaps, and they weren't good to begin with last year. So the only way really is up, but I don't expect them to be a dominant defense. Does anybody expect the 49ers to be a dominant defense? I don't. I'm not basing that off of this game. That'd be stupid, like I said, but I'm basing that off of just watching them at practice, knowing what the personnel is, knowing that similar experiments have taken some time to get going because you've got young players who have to develop. I just think that the margins aren't going to be large. I think that they could be a good defense by year's end. I don't think they're going to be top 5. I think they can sneak their way into the top half of the league, but I'm not so sure that's going to happen right out of bed. But the way that you can disguise some of your weaknesses, ease the pain of some of the growth, is through good coaching, through taking every single detail and scrutinizing it and using it to your advantage, like the 135 cut-ups that Robert Saleh's staff had ready for the defensive backs that Chase Lucas watched 10 times. And then he ran the route for Alex Bachman for the interception. I mean, those are the details that the 49ers will have to execute this year to be successful, because this defense is going to be starting out at a relative disadvantage compared to its 2019 and 2023 defenses. They don't have the same kind of all-pro talent. They've got young talent that has to develop. But I think that Robert Saleh and his staff, those are the right guys for that particular job. What else? We got a lot else right here. Ooh, Carter Bradley. You know, when he hit Robbie Chosen on that throw, it was the deep out, probably traveled a good 35, 40 yards in the air because you've got to cross the football field. He was going cross hash on that throw. He got drilled. That was a nice throw from Carter Bradley. I know everybody was trying to bury him last week, but the growth that we saw, not just from Bradley, but from Nick Martin, from a lot of players. I mean, even Jake Moody, we've seen a lot of growth here, but the growth that we saw specifically from Bradley and Martin, those are going to be my two examples, offense and defense. Week 1 of the preseason to week 2 of the preseason was immense, right? Maybe Carter was a little extra motivated because the Raiders cut him a couple weeks ago, but that he led the 49ers to the tie, and the throw that he made while getting absolutely drilled took a lot of guts, took some real skill, And that's what an NFL quarterback has to do. And it's stuff like that that I think makes the 49ers think, okay, we'd really like to keep this guy in our building if he could keep on improving at this rate. That's why they brought him in over Tanner Mordecai. They thought, okay, we probably have reached Tanner Mordecai's ceiling. We don't like where this is going. Let's try out Carter Bradley. They brought in Carter Bradley. It looked really, really rough in his first game. Looked a lot better for the 49ers yesterday. So, whether or not they take 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster remains to be determined, but it might be possible, probably will be possible, to keep Bradley on this team on the practice squad. I think he's going to have to earn that 3rd quarterback job, and it's probably something that won't be able to happen until next week. I think he's going to have to play a really, really good week 3 game against the Chargers for that to be in consideration for the 49ers. But keep an eye on number 14, Carter Bradley. That was a nice throw. What was unfortunate yesterday, probably made Kyle Shanahan pull his hair out, is Isaiah Prince, the veteran tackle, 3 false start penalties. And one of them neutralized the touchdown to Robbie Chosen. That was rough. So I know it was a relatively loud environment, even though there were more 49ers fans than Raiders fans in the place. The Raiders fans still make some noise on those 3rd downs. I know that the operation is still in its infancy here. I mean, this is what, week 2 of the preseason. It's August. It was August 16th yesterday. So the 49ers have been around for less than a month for training camp. Isaiah Prince has only been there for 2 weeks at this point. I think they signed him less than 2 weeks ago. So it's one of those things where you understand, but you also have to clean that up. Especially 3 of those. It just kept on happening over and over again. And this is somebody who started in a playoff run for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm sure Shanahan did not like to see those mental mistakes from Isaiah Prince. The big interception for Jalen Mahoney? That was the one that set up the Jake Moody field goal. Did you guys see who had the quarterback hit on that play? I'm sure that you guys will like it. The Hulk, Sebastian Valdez, hit the QB on that play. Just a little tidbit that I noticed while watching the game on tape earlier this morning. Why don't we show you a little something right here? This is up on the San Francisco Standard. This is the article. It'd be great if everybody could check it out. How Jake Moody, Brock Purdy, and Chase Lucas propelled the 49ers past the Raiders. I'm going to send this to Mike. That's some good coffee, by the way. Fountain Blue came through. So, I figured out, you guys, those of you who were watching earlier this week, I figured out what that empty parcel, the empty plot outside the Fountain Blue is. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I got to send it from my phone, though, to my computer so we can actually show you guys what's outside here. A little coffee respite before I take a lot of your 49ers questions. So right now I'm about to send you my view from the window here at the Fountain Blue. And it turns out that this big empty parcel, as you can see right there, that is where they want to build the new NBA arena in Las Vegas. It's going to be like the tallest casino, hotel, plus NBA arena if it all gets approved. And I'm pretty sure that they approve everything in Las Vegas. I'm pretty sure that there is no restriction on building anything here. So it's a lot easier to build here than the Bay Area. I'll say that. So it would not surprise me in the least bit to see this in front of us and that view become an NBA arena one day. That's the Stratosphere. And this is the Fountain Blue. This is my view. It's cool. This is the last show that we're doing from here. I'm going to push this all the way up until I push my flight back just so I can do a show. The nice thing about this status is you can just choose when you fly. It's paid off. So, and that allows me to talk to you guys, answer more of your questions, go behind the scenes of 49ers Raiders in a way that no other show is going behind the scenes of 49ers Raiders. Anyway, I'm sending this link to Mike. We're going to get him to put this into the description. I can't select it for some reason. There we go. All right, Mike, I'm sending it to you right now. There you go. And I'm ready for everybody's questions now. I think I've gone through some of the... Ooh, Isaiah Hodgins. Don't forget Isaiah Hodgins. That's on my notes. Big-bodied receiver made a couple catches for the 49ers yesterday. I'm really curious to see what the week one availability is, but if they are having issues due to Ayuk, due to Pearsall, due to no, Pearsall should be in, but Ayuk, Robinson, and Watkins not available for week one, and they're really looking for some higher floor performer, somebody who's done it before. Isaiah Hodgins has, and he's a bigger target. We saw him make a couple catches, including one on the first drive from Brock Purdy tomorrow. So remember the name. San Jose native, went to high school in Walnut Creek. Isaiah Hodgins, now with the 49ers, might have a chance to do something for San Francisco early in this season. Would I say the depth all around is looking better than last year? They had a good roster last year, man. They just got destroyed by injuries and then by poor special teams play. They're younger and they're faster this year, and I think they're going to be hungrier. So I think by those very important metrics that they've seen a step in the right direction. But then again, when you're younger, it takes longer to develop the actual skill and the comfort at the NFL level. So you can't necessarily say that they're overall better yet, if that makes sense. It's definitely going to be a work in progress for the 49ers this season. The offensive line didn't look very good. What are you talking about, man? They didn't have. Let's just talk about the first team offense right now. Let's talk about the second team offense too. Purdy was excellent. 5 of 7 for 66, marched right down the field. Mac Jones played well too, 13 of 16. You don't put up numbers like that without blocking, right? But both teams had to pass, both units had to pass protect for the 49ers for their first two quarterbacks to put up the numbers that they did. All right? That's point one. Point two is there was no Trent Williams. Okay? That's obvious. You didn't see big number 71. You will see him in the regular season. Point three is they were starting a rookie at left guard, and they still managed to put together a good passing offense with Brock Purdy and company. That was Connor Colby because Ben Barch is hurt. Point four is the Dominic Pooney got hurt on the first field goal attempt, so he wasn't in there beyond the first drive. Anyway, all these things, yet the quarterbacks still move the football well for the 49ers. I led one of the shows, it might have been this one, it might have been yesterday. I do so much content that I lose track. I led one of the shows saying, yeah, the 49ers run blocking was not great, but it's also week 2 of the preseason. And also all 4 of the things that I just listed happened to the offensive line. So they're not in regular season form yet. But guess what? It's August 17th. They still have 3 weeks to get into regular season form and a big reinforcement in Trent Williams coming. So I think that, again, team-wide evaluations are just silly at this point. We should look at how Purdy and Pearsall are connecting. We should look at how Corey Kiner is running. Unfortunately, he got hurt yesterday. We should look at how Marquise Siegel is covering ground. But if you want to, like, whole things like, oh, these guys are not blocking well, the run game is giving up too much. Yes, it wasn't good, but they're not playing at an optimal team-wide setup yet. They're evaluating, they're tinkering, they're not playing a lot of guys. This is not the same unit that you're going to see in week 1. When do I expect a decision on the Robinson suspension? I would expect it soon. At some point this month, I would hope. September 7th is the preseason opener at Seattle. I know the 49ers expect a suspension. That's why he's playing so much in the preseason. He played like a man yesterday, by the way. Did you guys see that third down where he caught the ball from Mack and then just dragged 3 guys across? Gave me shades of Jawan Jennings in Seattle I believe on Thanksgiving a couple years back. That was DeMarcus is a strong-bodied receiver. Now, he didn't catch the Purdy quick hitter, but nobody's perfect. And he moved on for that, and he's making some plays, and it looks like he's going to get into regular season form with these preseason games. Then he's going to miss a couple, and then he'll be back for the 49ers, and it looks like he'll be a valuable part of San Francisco's offense. Purdy was not excellent, says, how do I pronounce your name? Millard, probably Millard. What are you talking about? Did you watch the game yesterday? Did you see a quarterback just carving his way downfield? Do you realize how hard that 3rd and 18 throw was? That was a throw that probably 3 QBs in the league are making. Under the defense, over the linebacker, with a pass rush on 3rd and 18. And then you're literally upset that I'm blaming a drop on a receiver when the football hit him in both hands. This is a receiver making millions of dollars a year. Demarcus Robinson played a good game yesterday. He will be the first to tell you he should have caught that ball. Get off of your Purdy hate. You're wrong on Purdy. Those who say that Purdy isn't excellent have been wrong multiple times. They've been embarrassed over and over again. And now their ego investment in that poor take continues shining through. Trust me, you can say, I was wrong about Purdy, and you don't have to say that a good performance was bad. You'll look like less of an idiot if you just accept what the truth is. Joe thinks that Purdy's ready to tear up the NFC. I wouldn't go that far. I just think that he looked good in his first preseason game. But I think that based on what I know of Brock Purdy as a QB, and we've seen MVP caliber film from him already, I think that he's ready to tear up the NFC just based on what I objectively know about Brock Purdy already. And the fact that people don't give him the respect that he has earned through his play on the field, and he could show up and play well in a preseason game, and then there are people still trying to pick apart the end of a drive because a receiver couldn't hold on to a ball that hit him in the hands, and they're somehow blaming it on Purdy, is preposterous. There's no other quarterback in the league that is scrutinized unfairly in this way. There just isn't. Like, it's a whole level of idiocy when it comes to how people try to judge Brock Purdy. I don't know if it's the internet giving the wrong people a megaphone to say some of this stuff, but I'm glad that we're shutting it down. I'm glad that we have shut it down. I'm glad that that's been all proven wrong. I mean, no serious football person takes that seriously, but it's still noise that has to be dunked on every once in a while. Siegel starts week 1 and Jair should be traded. I don't think you should trade Jair Brown unless you've got a lot of faith in your safety depth, right? And Jalen Mahoney, okay, yes, he made a nice play, 13 safety for the 49ers yesterday. It was a great interception to set up the field goal. But Malik Mustafa needs to come back, and Pinnock and Grant both need to not be hurt. Right now, they're both dealing with relatively minor injuries for you to be comfortable moving on from Jair Brown. I think that's the key. Now, I think Jair might be more valuable to somebody like Steve Wilkes, who got on the table before during the draft in 2023. Steve is now the defensive coordinator of the Jets. He's essentially traded places with Robert Saleh. So it's one of those things where he might not fit what Robert Saleh is exactly looking for at safety, but he is a veteran right now who gives the 49ers some needed insulation at that safety position. People have main character syndrome and can't admit when they get it wrong, or just don't care because a click is a click. Yeah, I think it's a combination of both of those things. And it's really unfortunate, but we're going to keep on fighting the good fight here. I'm not biased toward a team or a player. I'm just an objective observer and reporter who focuses on covering the 49ers, but there is a direction in which I'm biased. And I'm passionate about this bias, and it's the truth. Right? The objective truth. And I don't think it's that hard to identify. There could be a lot of noise out there because a lot of people aren't interested in the truth. They're interested in their own takes and their own clicks. But if I am a cheerleader for the truth. And that is going to be what this channel is about. That's what the writing that you see up on the screen from the San Francisco Standard is going to be all about. It's always going to be focused on what is objectively the truth. Brock Purdy is one of the best QBs in the NFL. That is objectively the truth. We've got film to back that up. We've got numbers to back that up. We have, I guess, have an opinion to back up the truth that is a little bit of an oxymoron, but you could talk to actual NFL people, executives, coaches, Shanahan himself, who knows this. I mean, everything points in that direction. So we're not going to let something that is obviously a lie, that's obviously not tethered to the truth, we're not going to just let that run around unpunished. There's a reason why more people watch this 49ers channel than any other channel by a lot. All right, any more questions? How did Connor Colby do? I talked about him early on. And Connor Colby is the one play that I highlighted was the third down play where that ended Purdy's drive that sent Jake Moody onto the field. And Colby got backed into Purdy by Tyree Wilson. The 49ers have been more happy with his pass blocking than his run blocking so far. But the funny thing is that play was the opposite. I hope that the pressure numbers come out soon so we have an exact tally of how many he gave up. They're not out yet. I just checked right now. But for his first game, he played a lot. They kept him at left guard. And I think the 49ers realize this is somebody we just want to rep. We want to rep him. We want to rep him. We want to rep him because he's going to be one of the first guys off the bench for the 49ers at that guard position. I think he's already shown them enough to warrant that position on the pecking order for the 49ers. It's about, okay, let's get him ready for the regular season. He's not going to start if the 49ers have veterans ahead of him who are available. But he definitely is on the inside track now to play, and it's because there's been more polish in his pass protection than the 49ers expected. I think especially from the cerebral level. Now he's got to drop the anchor on third and long plays or third down plays like we saw yesterday where Tyree Wilson pushed him back. It's wild how Purdy has held the Heisman winner status. It's absolutely ridiculous. So it is what it is. But, again, there's a reason why people have flocked to this channel because we're really the only ones who keep it real, who keep it objective. So I think at the end of the day, common sense and logic does prevail. But I knew as soon as there was one incompletion from Purdy yesterday, people would treat it like it was 10 incompletions from Purdy yesterday. And it doesn't happen to any other quarterback. So it's just not the way that Purdy is evaluated is just not realistic. And for the realistic evaluations, you can always come here. We'll always have videos about it right here. What's my thought on Genty's play yesterday? I just am afraid that it's not going to be sustainable. I think he's a scary, scary runner. He runs with such power, but he's seeking contact on every single run, and it's like a mini car accident every time. So I'm just worried that the bruises are going to pile up fast. he could run away from a lot of college guys. You're not running away from NFL guys, so the contact rate's going to be much higher. But he's impressive. I'm not going to lie. He's an impressive player. I just don't know. I really don't know. Anytime you see a back that bruising, it's the exception rather than the rule to see that guy have long-term success. Like Marshawn Lynch was an exception. He wasn't the rule, right? The reason why Frank Gore was able to display Hall of Fame longevity, 16,000 yards in 16 seasons, is he knew how to angle his body to avoid the big contact, to take as much of the bruising damage off. So it's one of those things where I wish Ashton Genty the best, but I'll be pleasantly surprised if the level of physical punishment that he both dishes out and then receives, because yesterday Tatum Bethune got him good, D Winters got him good. I'll be pleasantly surprised if he's able to keep up this rate of physicality at this level. It just is really, really tough. Look at Millard. He's still gone. You're so biased. Okay, find evidence that I'm biased. Or are you just saying that because you're a robot? Sounds like you're just parroting other people's takes, which aren't true. Most objective 49ers channel there is. All facts, all the time. I'm just not emotional, right? I actually treat this like a man, and I logically go through strategy. But because I'm not sitting around crying and kicking and screaming and looking for attention after every single thing that happens, you're just upset that I'm not as emotional as you, so you say that I'm biased. It's your own insecurity trying to be passed off to me for blame on David Lombardi. That's basically what's happening. And then if you hear other people say it, then, oh, you think you're validated in it. But again, the viewer count doesn't lie. We've got more people watching this than anywhere else because I'm actually objective and not biased. This is a good one. What's my take on Huff? Bryce Huff, he had to play an outsized role of snaps yesterday, so he had to play a lot of base down defensive end, which he's not going to play in the regular season. He's light. He's not a run defender. He's going to come in on the pass rushing situations. They want him to play about 33% of the snaps. Yesterday, they were so short on defensive linemen that he was playing base situations and the Raiders were running against them. It's a great example of why you shouldn't be looking at team-wide run defense evals here in this game, because it's not what the 49ers are going to set up to defend the run in the regular season. So yesterday, it was funny because I was watching Bryce Huff, and he was playing with some good power on his pass rush. When Bosa's in there, I think he's going to be able to go to more of his speed rush, and he's going to be able to run around the hoop, and Bosa's going to bring some of the more power moves on the other side. And the 49ers, it's a team-wide thing, right? You got 4 pass rushers when you're not blitzing, and they're all trying to attack the quarterback in unison and form the pocket around the quarterback and then collapse that pocket. So yesterday, Huff was playing a different role where he was having to bring the power rush, and I thought that he was working the right tackle pretty good with his power move. He was backing the right tackle up into the quarterback. If he could deliver versatility with his moves, if it's not just speed, but if he could also deliver some power, it's going to allow the 49ers some change-ups on the other side, and I think that's going to be even better for Nick Bosa. When we talk about a Bosa bookend, somebody that could unlock 15-plus sacks from Nick Bosa, it's going to have to be somebody who's not just winning with speed on the other side, but uses speed as his primary move, but can also shift to power, which I thought Huff did with some effectiveness yesterday. I would agree that CJ West seems more NFL ready today than Alfred Collins. Collins, there's more clay to mold here, right? He's 6'6", 331. West is a big guy too, but the lower center of gravity typically makes a defensive lineman, especially an interior defensive lineman, ready sooner. Because you got to learn how to play with that taller frame at the NFL level. And that's where Alfred Collins is right now. He's learning how to play with his taller frame. Those of you just joining, we opened this up talking about Chase Lucas kicking the door down. How about a little intel on Jake Moody's strides? I asked Jake about this yesterday. Remember, he's changed from 3 strides to 2 strides ahead of his kick. They were all of his kicks, most of his kicks. This is good intel on Jake Moody. Listen to this. I asked him, hey, this was a 59-yarder. Did you move back to 3 strides to gain a little extra power? It's like the lead up into his kick. And he said, no, he kept it at 2. He thought that his range yesterday would be 63 yards with 2 strides. So more accuracy, less power, still had 63-yard range. I think that obviously was correct because he made the 59-yarder with plenty of room to spare. Jake told me that if they were attempting a 70-yarder, he would go to 3 strides. Now, how fun would that be if we got to see a 70-yard attempt next week against the Chargers? Didn't we just see one in the Jacksonville game last week? Their kicker, he hit a 70-yarder. So anyway, just food for thought. But there's a lot that goes into this whole kicking thing. And Moody has tried to go with the more accurate approach with 2 strides. He has sacrificed about 2 or 3 yards of power or distance, right? But it was good enough to 2 strides for a very long 59-yarder yesterday. Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall. The connection between these two was superb. And one thing that I learned yesterday is that Ricky, he was too focused, they say, or he was too locked in, too zeroed in on beating his defender last year, that he did not prioritize his timing with Brock Purdy enough. He is prioritizing his timing with Brock Purdy, and they are locked in. They are on the same page. It is a lot of fun to watch. Like it's one of those things where you could tell that they've taken it to the next level this year. We've seen it at practice. Now we're seeing it in these games for the 49ers. Purdy and Pearsall have a rapport that stretches into the territory of these guys are speaking the same language on the field. The 3rd and 18 was a great example because Purdy's manipulating the defense. He's manipulating the linebacker, but he knows they're trying to clear the defense out with Russell Gage running the deep route. Pearsall goes underneath. Purdy recognizes, I've got to underthrow this a little bit because the safeties are playing further back. Pearsall recognizes that too, makes the catch. Earlier, maybe a play or two earlier, Ricky Pearsall's running the crosser. Purdy's rolling out. Purdy and Pearsall both recognize that it's best for the receiver to stop, break off the route, and throw it behind the linebacker who tried to cheat the route. I mean, stuff like that doesn't just happen. You don't just get out of bed and deliver on an off-script adjustment like that. You have to have rapport. You have to have your timing down. You have to have your trust down. And I think that Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall are in a really, really good place right now. All right, so the article is up on the San Francisco Standard. Go ahead and check that out. I have it written there, or I have it posted there on the screen, but it's also written in the description. We're going to go ahead and post it into the comment section. There it is. You can watch all the videos from the instant reaction yesterday. I did the locker room reaction where we have interviews with Jake Moody, Chase Lucas, and Nick Martin. Those video interviews are all on the locker room reaction, so be sure to check that out as well. A lot of information is both in the written article. There's another one coming out today on the San Francisco Standard, so it's a good time to get subscribed. And also a ton of information is available for you here on the YouTube channel. I think I put out like 4 or 5 pieces of content since that game ended. The most in-depth stuff that you will get covering the 49ers that there is. So become a member, hit that subscribe button, watch the instant reaction from yesterday. That was fun. We did it from the bowels of Levi's Stadium. And, you know, maybe we can give you guys, we're going to give you guys a little quick last minute tour here in Vegas. Why don't we look out the window here in Las Vegas to say goodbye to Las Vegas? Check this out. I'm stepping away from the mic. Give me a second. All right. Oh, no, we got to open up the shears too. Hold on. One more button. There we go. It's all opening up. There you guys go. Oh, there's the stratosphere. Much better. I think that's a good. From Las Vegas. We'll see you guys later.